again. Whoa! Whoa! Say one more goddamn time.
What is going on, my guys, gals, and non-binary pals? Welcome back to Nerd Explosion, the weekly podcast where, based on a monthly topic, I nerd out about whatever I want. As always, I'm your host, Cameron. A long time ago, in a galaxy not so far away, a young man by the name of George Lucas thought to himself, I want to create the biggest, best, most exciting space movie that anyone has ever seen. In fact, I want to make a whole series of them, and everyone is going to love them, and no one is going to have any bad opinions about them whatsoever. This is going to be great. Those movies ended up becoming Star Wars, and that is the topic for the month of May. Now, there are a lot of reasons I want to dedicate all of May to Star Wars. Well, one, because obviously I'm a huge fan of Star Wars, and also because May is pretty much considered Star Wars month, because pretty much all the movies released in the month of May. So for this whole month, I just want to dedicate each episode to, something about Star Wars, whether I talk about the movies or I talk about the video games or just anything Star Wars related. I do want to do an episode on theories because I feel like that would be a very interesting episode to do. But for today's episode, I just kind of wanted to go into Star Wars a bit, just kind of give my own opinions about Star Wars and just kind of talk about it a little bit for those people who, have been living under a rock for the past, 3 decades and don't know what Star Wars is. But before I get started, I do want to say I apologize if you hear any sniffling or my voice sounds weird in this episode. I am, in fact, currently sick. I know I shouldn't be recording when I'm sick, but hey, I've done it before, so why not? So yeah, if you hear any sniffling, just know that, I'll try to edit it out as much as I can, but if you hear any sniffling, just know that's why I'm currently sick. I'm trying to get over an illness, especially before my nephew's birthday this weekend, so hopefully I can get over it by then and I don't get anyone else sick. But enough about my life. Let's get started with the episode, shall we? Let's talk about Star Wars. This podcast is brought to you by Anchor FM. Ever thought about starting your own podcast? Well, then you should check out Anchor FM. I use Anchor FM for this podcast, and seriously, I can't recommend enough to you guys. It is fantastic. It is very easy to use, and best of all, it's completely free. You don't have to pay a single thing for it. You can easily record and edit your own podcast from your phone or computer with its many creation tools. And once you're done recording, Anchor will automatically distribute your podcast for you to apps like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. And you can start making money with your podcast as soon as your very first episode. So download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.FM to get started. Do or do not. There is no try. That was actually a pretty solid Yoda impression, even though I'm sick. I'm available for birthday parties and bar mitzvahs if anybody's hiring, because, this doesn't pay that much. Anyway, Star Wars. Let's talk about Star Wars. So, we all know what Star Wars is. Most of us know what Star Wars is. It's a movie about space wizards, good versus evil. But if you want a more precise definition, if you're one of those people, be like, but what is it really about? Here's what Wikipedia says about Star Wars. Star Wars is an American epic space opera multimedia franchise created by George Lucas, which began with the eponymous 1977 film and quickly became a worldwide pop culture phenomenon. The franchise has been expanded to various films and other media, including television series, video games, novels, comic books, theme park attractions, and themed areas, comprising an all-encompassing fictional universe. In 2020, its total value was estimated at $70 billion US, and it is currently the 5th highest grossing media franchise of all time. So yeah, Star Wars is big, and if you don't know what Star Wars is, then what's wrong with you? Like, you're missing out. Yeah, like, when I say there's a lot of stuff with Star Wars, like, it got big. Like, and it all started in 1977. Now, I mentioned before that Star Wars, a bunch of the Star Wars movies released in May, and I was not kidding and I actually had to recheck this because I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't just blowing smoke out of my ass with, when these came out. But yeah, pretty much all of them released in May. I think basically all of them released in May. So, beginning with the first one, episode 1, Phantom Menace, I only consider this the first one because, it's the beginning of all the events canonically, like story-wise. Phantom Menace released on May 19th, 1999. And then next, we got Attack of the Clones, which released on May 16th, 2002. And then we got one of my personal favorites, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, which released May 19th, 2005. And then from there, we go to Episode 4, which for a lot of people was their first Star Wars movie, which was the first Star Wars movie ever made. So Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, released May 25th, 1977. And then after that, we got another one of my favorites, Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back. That released May 21st, 1980. And then we got Star Wars Return of the Jedi, or Episode 6, I should say. That released May 25th, 1983. Now, just focusing on, the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy, because I know a lot of people have a debate about those, I'm honestly fans of pretty much all of them. I especially love Episode 3. Like, I know a lot of people like to shit all over the prequel trilogy and the sequel trilogy by that extension, but I personally love Episode 3. So, after the prequel and the sequel trilogy, in the main line, we got the sequel trilogy, with Star Wars Force Awakens. This actually changed it up, and this was released on December 18th, 2015. And then after that, we got probably one of the more polarizing releases in the series. We got Star Wars The Last Jedi, which released December 15th, 2017. And then we have the final mainline Star Wars movie, Rise of Skywalker, which released December 20th, 2019. Now, a lot of people do not like the sequel trilogy. I don't think it's that bad, honestly. Like, it's seriously not that bad. Like, it's the only reason so many people think it's bad is because you have all these, like, hardcore Star Wars fans that don't want anything changed, either from the original trilogy or the prequel trilogy. They don't want anything different. They just want things to stay the same always. They want whatever they do with Star Wars to cater specifically to them, and that's just not how it's gonna work out. That's never how it works out. You can't just expect something to stay the same for, years and years, decades. Like, you can't expect new Star Wars movies to be exactly like, New Hope or Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, because those were made in the 80s, late 70s, early 80s, and, things have definitely evolved by now. But now that I've gotten through all those, and those are just the mainline movies, there's still, like, all kinds of extra stuff out there. I haven't even gotten to I guess technically the spin-off movies including Rogue One, which actually takes place between Episode 3 and 4, with the end of that actually, explaining how Princess Leia got the rebel plans to begin with, because the whole mission in Rogue One was with Jyn Erso was to get the plans to Princess Leia so that she could, keep them safe, and then, give them to the other rebels so then they can get their plan together. Which I actually watched an interesting video the other day. It explained, like, why everything in Rogue One was so important to New Hope and why it changes your perspective on things a little bit. Like, it explains why at the beginning of New Hope, Darth Vader is just so angry, because as he finds out at the end of Rogue One, the rebels have escaped him, and he's pissed off about it. And it actually makes sense, because there's some lines he says in New Hope at the beginning where he says the rebels won't escape this time. Because, before that, if you've seen that for the first time, especially, what was it, in 77, you're seeing that back in 77, you're probably sitting there like, what does he mean this time? What does he mean this time? Have they done this before? But now we see, oh, they have done this before, and here's what happened. There's a lot more, but I can't really remember it. But yeah, Rogue One, I loved Rogue One. Rogue One is, a really good Star Wars movie. I know a lot of people shit on Rogue One, but it's Star Wars. You're going to shit on a lot of things. What else? There was Solo. Now, Solo was, like I said, a Han Solo spin-off movie. And it basically gave a lot of backstory on Han Solo, how he become, the lovable, smuggler that we grow to love in, the original trilogy. And it was I actually loved, the guy who played young Han Solo. Actually, my favorite part of that movie was the fact that they had Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, if you're a fan of him. They had Donald Glover play a young Lando, and he fit perfectly. Like he encompassed Billy D. Williams Lando perfectly. But yeah, Solo was another one of those. And then let's not even talk about like all the other spin-offs. Like there was Star Wars Clone Wars, which was the animated series that took place like between episode 2 and 3, and it saw Anakin, not only take over the role of like training a Padawan, but also you start to see his descent towards the dark side. You don't see it fully because that all happens in episode 3, but Clone Wars introduces us to Ahsoka Tano, who was Anakin's Padawan and pretty much became a fan favorite character. Oh, then we got, the Disney Plus series with The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. Now, Mandalorian, I believe, takes place after, or just before Force Awakens. Like, it takes place after Return of the Jedi, but before Force Awakens. Because there's still stormtroopers around. They haven't, First Order hasn't become a thing yet. Book of Boba Fett pretty much takes place same time as Mandalorian. Now, Mandalorian focuses on who else? The Mandalorian. He is a bounty hunter who, just run around doing his own thing. And then all of a sudden he comes across, a young child, a youngling, aka Baby Yoda. And, he spends the whole series trying to protect him. And ultimately, at the end of the series, spoilers if you haven't seen it, he ends up, the main villain of it, Moff Gideon, he ends up capturing Baby Yoda, and Mandalorian has to get him back with the help of the Darksaber. Shenanigans happen, fights ensue, and it seems like all hope is lost. But then Luke Skywalker shows up at the last second and is like, hey, I took care of all the villains for you. By the way, let me take the child so I can train him to be a Jedi. And, I just realized this whole time I've been explaining stuff, a lot of you guys who aren't fans of Star Wars are going to be like, what is he talking about? Or none of you are going to care. That's fine. I care.
It's my show. Shut up.
I'm just kidding. You're lovely, whoever you are. Little kiss for you. Anyway, yeah, there's all kinds of stuff. What else is happening? One series with Star Wars that hasn't even come out yet. The Obi-Wan series, which I believe is going to take place between episode 3 and 4. And it basically, I feel like, I haven't seen anything with the story yet, but I believe it's going to be Obi-Wan's adventures or him dealing with being in hiding after the whole Order 66 thing. That's something else I'll go into in a little bit, but yeah, I'm super excited for the Obi-Wan series. I'm super pumped for it, especially because they got Ewan McGregor back to be Obi-Wan, and it was confirmed that Hayden Christensen is going to return to be Darth Vader. I'm so excited for it. Like, I can't even describe it. Like, I am so goddamn excited for it. But yeah, there's, in case you're not familiar with a lot of Star Wars stuff, I'll just slowly explain stuff quick. So I mentioned Order 66. Now, if you're not familiar, like, if you haven't seen episode 3, there's an event that happens in episode 3 called Order 66. Now, this is when the character, Emperor Palpatine, he takes over and orders all the clone troopers to turn on the Jedi, and basically he wipes out, like, the entire Jedi Order. I mean, there are obviously a lot of Jedi that survive the Order, but he basically sends all the clone troopers to turn on all the Jedi, and he's like, haha, I'm gonna take over now because all of you are stupid, haha. With the help of Anakin, of course, because obviously Palpatine is training Anakin to be the ultimate Sith. So with Anakin's help, they defeat a bunch of Jedi, and they finally land on Mustafar, where Anakin takes out a bunch of political people, political leaders, and Obi-Wan and Padme end up flying to the planet too, and Padme comes out and she's like, Anakin, I love you, please don't do this. And Anakin's like, no, I must, come with me, we can rule the galaxy together. And then Obi-Wan comes out, and he's like, no, you turned her against me, I'm gonna choke her for some reason. And Obi-Wan is just like, no, put her down. And Anakin is just like, you turned her against me. Obi-Wan's like, you have done that yourself. You will not take her from me? Your arrogance, or I forget what he says, but it was like something in your arrogance and your lust for power have already done that. And, this is the one scene that, like, no matter whoever hates episode 3, everybody remembers the Anakin Obi-Wan fight from episode 3. where they have the huge duel. And then there's the part where they're going down the river of lava, and then Obi-Wan jumps out of the way, and he's like, "It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!" And then Anakin's like, "You underestimate my power." And Obi-Wan's like, "Don't try it." And then Anakin jumps, and Obi-Wan's like, "Nope, there goes your legs." And, they have the whole back and forth while Anakin is, limbless and burning alive. Obi-Wan's like, "You are like a brother to me, Anakin! I loved you! You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them." And then Anakin's like, "I hate you!" And then, he becomes Darth Vader. How'd you like my little synopsis of episode 3 there? No, anyway, if you've been able to follow along at this point, congrats, I applaud you. But anyway, back to just Star Wars as a whole. There's all the movies, there's all the spin-off series and all that, spin-off movies and the TV series on like Disney Plus and all that. As far as the games, now I'll do a whole episode talking about games, but just real quick, I want to briefly talk about some of the ones I played and some of the ones I recommend you play. When I was a kid, for the PlayStation 1, I had 2 games actually for it. I had Star Wars Demolition and Star Wars Jedi Power Battles. Now, Star Wars Demolition was an interesting one because you got to play, basically you were put in an arena and you got to pilot different vehicles like a snow speeder or like an AT-ST. I think that's what they're called. It's the one with 2 legs. Are those the STs or are those the AT-ATs? No, I think the AT-ATs are the big camel ones. Hey Jim, robot camel. That's actually a reference to Family Guy when they did their Star Wars episode, because they actually did a bunch of episodes parodying Star Wars, and it was the scene on Hoth where all the rebels are keeping an eye, looking out for the Empire, and they're like, and you're like, and one of the rebels was like, "Do you think we're gonna be safe here?" And the guy was like, "As long as they don't got any giant robot camels, I think we're gonna be fine." And then one guy looks through binoculars and sees the AT-AT, and he's like, Jim, robot camels." Oh, I love that. I love that parody. I mean, a lot of people don't like Family Guy anymore because it's gotten pretty cringy, but if you do have the urge to watch Family Guy, I definitely recommend you watch their parodies of Star Wars. They did the original trilogy. They didn't touch the prequel trilogy at all. They just did episode 4, 5, and 6. But yeah, I definitely recommend them. But, back to Star Wars Demolition. Basically, you got your choice of different vehicles to pilot, and then it puts you in, like, a certain arena, depending on which one you choose, from different locations, like Dagobah and Naboo. And, yeah, you just plopped you into an arena, and you had to... Basically, it was a fight to the death, and you actually got different endings, depending on... there was an arcade mode, basically, you could go through, and they... you went through and you got different endings for different characters. Jedi Power Battles, I actually played with a friend of mine, Aaron, who I'll probably have in an episode for this because he remembers this way more than I do. Jedi Power Battles was a weird one. It was like I guess third person, but you had a fixed camera. You basically walked from screen to screen, and you got to choose from a team of Jedis. You could be like Obi-Wan, Mace Windu. I think Yoda was one of them. I don't remember. It's been years since I played the game, but it was pretty good. I think I only remember having fun with it. Like, I don't think the game itself is actually fun, but the only reason I had fun is because I was playing it with a friend. And I'm still upset that I lost that disc and have no idea where it went. As far as other Star Wars games, which other ones? I mean, the obvious being Lego Star Wars, which is probably the most popular, Lego game there is. Because, everyone remembers Lego Star Wars. I feel like everyone who ever owned either an Xbox or a PlayStation had Lego Star Wars. I mean, it's gotten big. It had, it did the original trilogy. No, it did the prequel trilogy. It did episodes 1, 2, and 3. And then they came out with a second one that did 4, 5, and 6. And then they did the complete saga, which combined all of those. So you had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then they did one based off of Clone Wars. And then they did one based off of Force Awakens. They did a bunch of them. And the most recent one that literally just came out within the past month was Skywalker Saga, which lets you play all the episodes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 1 through 9. you can play all the Star Wars movies in order. And from what I've seen, like the gameplay footage, it is fantastic. It is such a pretty looking game for being a Lego game. It is such a pretty looking game for being a Lego game. And when I get the opportunity, I'm definitely going to play it. Other Lego games I've played, Jedi Fallen Order is definitely a good one. You know, you play as Cal Kestis, and this is shortly after Order 66, and he's basically, you know, trying to fight back against the Empire for wronging him and killing his master. And then there's the Star Wars Battlefront games. Now, I never had the original Battlefront games, but I did play, like, the newer versions, I guess you could call them. Like, the first one, you know, it was pretty okay. It was mainly, like, a multiplayer thing, so not really much to that. The second one actually changed it a little bit because along with the big, you know, multiplayer aspect of it, they did include a single-player story where you basically played as a former, she's not a stormtrooper. There's a word for her. She's like the Infernal Squad. So she was like a special, what was her name? I can't think of the character's name now. God, I can't remember it, but basically the character you play as, she was a former member of the Empire's Infernal Squad, which were like special stormtroopers that had all black armor, and they came in, you know, after like a war was won to basically clean up the mess. And by that I mean, you know, kill innocents. But then she starts to slowly realize that, you know, she doesn't like what the Empire is doing, and then joins the rebels, and then, you know, you save the day. I'm trying to think of what other Star Wars games I've played besides those. One I'm currently playing right now, and I actually replaying because I've played it before, Star Wars Force Unleashed. This one deals with, you're playing as Starkiller, who was a clone, or no, the original Starkiller was the child of a Jedi that Darth Vader captured at a young age and trained him to be a Sith. But obviously throughout the game, you can, you know, choose your own path, and you can join the rebels and everything. The one I'm actually playing right now is the second one, Force Unleashed 2, where you're still playing Starkiller, but the whole, I guess the story of this is that you find out Darth Vader has actually been creating clones of Starkiller because of, you know, everything that happened in the first game. He's like, oh, if I create a bunch of clones of Starkiller, then I always have a backup plan. You know, I have all these Starkillers I can use to take over the galaxy and everything. And basically you, as one of the clones who realizes, you know, he gets all his memories back from the original Starkiller, he realizes, like, oh, Darth Vader is kind of a dick, so we should probably stop him. But yeah, no, Force Unleashed is definitely a good one too. I recommend that. I'm trying to think. Oh, there is one more game that I remember playing, and I never owned it, but I played it. So, little backstory. My mom, like when we were kids, had a gym membership to a Lifetime Fitness. I don't know if anybody outside of Minnesota has, like, I think Lifetime Fitness is a national thing. Anyway, it's a fitness center. Like, you know, bigger than Planet Fitness and probably more expensive. But she went to Lifetime Fitness regularly because, you know, she wanted to work out. And she would drop me and my sister off, or me for a while, at this, like, daycare thing, or a thing for kids, where basically they can hang out with their parents, go and work out. And they had, like, a computer section. And one of the games on the computer was a Star Wars pod racing game. And I remember playing that so many times. Like, it was actually pretty fun. There's actually a pod racing game on PlayStation Now that I've been kind of dabbling into called Racer Revenge, which is basically the same thing. It's just like a newer pod racing thing. So there's always that. Like, if you're into racing, there's a pod racing game. I'm trying to think, what else can I mention? I've talked about the games. I talked about the movies. Talked about the spin-off series. There's this, you know, Star Wars has been referenced in everything, and there's not a whole lot that I can get into without, you know, wasting my time, you know, talking about something that I'm going to explain in another episode. And if it's one thing I hate, it's repeating myself, which I've probably already done a lot at this point, but I think that's all I kind of want to say on Star Wars, and probably good timing too, because my throat is starting to get really scratchy, and people outside don't know when to shut up! Like, every time, I'm leaving this in, by the way, every time I record, there's always some douche with a loud-ass muffler that has to race down the road. But no, I'm leaving it in this time. Fuck that guy. I guess with that being said, that's all I gotta say on Star Wars for now. I will definitely go into more detail about like the games and everything. I probably already went into a lot of detail about the games like today, but I'll try to get a guest for that episode, like the episode where I talk about more about the games. I'll try to get a guest for that, so I'm not just, blabbing for half an hour to an hour, however long it takes. But yeah, that's all I gotta say in Star Wars for now. I definitely got, a bunch of episodes plans. Like I said, I definitely want to do an episode on like Star Wars theories, because there are a lot of interesting theories out there that I really want to sink my teeth into. So yeah, with that being said, that's all I gotta say for now. Tune in next time for more, great Star Wars content, and hopefully, there is one episode I want to do where I talk about like spicy Star Wars opinions, and all that, the ones that really get people's goats going. But with that being said, that's all I got for now. New episodes of this podcast come out every Saturday, so make sure you're following, liking, doing whatever you can with this podcast. Also, video versions come out on my YouTube, SuperCam64, every Saturday as well. So when the audio version goes up, the video version goes up. So listen on, either platform, or listen to both, why not, spend an hour of your day listening to this. But that's gonna be it from me. I hope you guys are staying hydrated. I hope you guys are doing positive things out there. You matter, you're beautiful, little extra kisses for you. That's gonna be it from me. I've been Cameron, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next one. Nerd out.